As France's far right sees a historic rise in support, incidents of racism and anti-Semitism are also rising across the country. That's according to the latest annual report published this Thursday by France's Human Rights Commission. To tell us more, I'm also joined on set by France 24's Emerald Maxwell. Emerald, tell us more about what's in this report.
Well, that report actually looks at all types of racism, but we're going to have a closer look at just some of the figures. First of all, the anti-Semitic and Islamophobic incidents have seen a really important rise since 2019, up 144% and 57% respectively. But the biggest rise has been in anti-Semitic incidents, particularly in the last year, where we can see they actually rose by 284%, so actually double the rates of the years prior. Another figure that really stands out from their polling in this report, which is based on face-to-face interviews with a representative sample of 1,210 people, 51% of those people said that they don't feel at home in France anymore. That's compared to 43% just 2 years ago. And the report authors link this to a rejection of immigration. And as if to illustrate this feeling of alienation actually rises to 91% among National Rally supporters. Lastly, we can see the longitudinal tolerance index, which measures tolerance and prejudice among the French every year on a scale from 0 to 100, with the closer to 100 being the more tolerant you are. That has actually fallen by 3 points in 1 year to 62. This is a rare drop if you look at the bigger picture, but it has been dropping for 2 years consecutively. Although it's worth saying that it's still one of the highest in the world, and it's still much higher than the levels recorded in the 1990s and the early 2000s, which were around 50.
Okay, still scary to think that it is going backwards. Emerald, can you give us some concrete examples of some of the types of violence that this report is recording?
Well, we have seen what seems to be a rise in cases of racism and anti-Semitism in the news. For instance, there was the gang rape of a 12-year-old French Jewish girl, which really shocked people in France. This was in the northwestern Paris suburb of Courbevoie earlier this month, and it involved two 12 and 13-year-old boys who also beat her while raping her, uttering death threats and anti-Semitic remarks, and while filming it all. Another incident which went out on television involved a French black woman who was told to go to the kennel and whistled at by her neighbours, these people are vocal supporters of the far-right National Rally Party. And this, yet again, they were fully aware of being filmed. And this seems to reflect a general trend of a more brazen and explicit racism, which has been rising since the National Rally won the European elections at the start of the month, and which seems to have emboldened people in their racism. French journalists Karim Rissouli and Mohamed Bouafsi both have spoken about the increase of racist messages they've received since that election, and also in the run-up to the parliamentary elections this weekend. And Karim Rissouli even received a letter to his home full of racist slurs and telling him that the real reason people were voting for the National Rally was because of their hatred of people like him, of people of colour.
Oh, so this report really clearly draws the line between the rise in the far right and the rise in racist and anti-Semitic incidents. What are some of the other factors playing into it?
Well, some of the reasons are geopolitical, and of course, the Gaza war is being felt in France, as it is in many other parts of the world. That seems to have triggered a rise in anti-Semitism, for instance. You only have to look at the surge in 2023 compared to previous years to see that the conflict is being imported and it's also been instrumentalized by politicians of all stripes in whose interest it is to widen divisions. And this includes some members on the hard left, the members of France Unbowed. But those divisions, or divisions in general, go back a lot further than that, of course. Socioeconomic factors also contribute to anti-immigration feeling against the backdrop of deteriorating public services, particularly health services. There is a feeling that immigrants are taking a larger part of the pie. There's also a feeling by more than 40% of French people that insecurity is mainly linked to immigration. Of course, immigrants have long been a very convenient scapegoat for a country's problems, but there has been a normalization of this sort of rhetoric, of this idea, by the rise of the far right, which is taking up more space in the public sphere. But also the shift to the right of Emmanuel Macron's government, which on issues such as security, identity and immigration, as they try to ward off the far right.